Anderson, the program coordinator at the Wade Edwards Foundation and Learning Lab. Welcome to the 7 Habits virtual series, and for those who have joined us for one of our previous nights or all of our previous nights, welcome back. We are really glad to have you all. Tonight, we will be discussing habit number 4, Think Win-Win. Our presenters are Victoria and Sarah Vojnovich, and they have something very special in store for you. Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that this series has been running from August 3rd and will run this week until August 6th. So that's Monday to Thursday. And then it will run again next week from August 10th to August 12th. So that's Monday to Wednesday. And so we want to make sure that you join us each and every one of those nights, but don't come tomorrow because we won't be here. So this is the last night for this week of the series, but make sure to join us back on Monday, August the 10th, 7 p.m. We will be right here for you. So before we get started, I just kind of want to introduce our presenter. Sarah couldn't join us today, but Victoria could. Hi, Victoria. How are you today?
Probably going to unmute. Hi, everybody. How are you doing? I'm well, thanks.
Thank you so much. We are really excited to hear your presentation. So without further ado, I won't hold us up. Here's habit number 4, Think Win-Win.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Habit 4, which is Think Win-Win. My name is Victoria Vojnovich, and I am here with my daughter, Sarah Vojnovich, and we are excited to present this habit to you. Sarah, you want to say hi?
Hi.
All right. So, Sarah, whoop. We're going to have you read this slide to everybody that is Sean Covey's definition of thinking win-win.
Think win-win is an attitude toward life, a mental frame of mind that says, I can win, and so can you. It is not me or you, it's both of us. Think win-win is a foundation for getting along well with other people. It begins with the belief that we are all equal, that no one is inferior or superior to anyone else, and no one really needs to be.
So before we talk about what win-win is, let's talk a little bit about when it's not win-win. For example, what happens when it's a win-lose? Win-lose makes us think about the great big pizza pie of success. When we think win-lose, we think that pie of success is only so big, and if somebody else gets a bigger piece, there is less for me. So what do? We try to make sure we get to that pie first, and we try to get the biggest piece so that we win and someone else loses. When we think win-win, we think about I'm better than you, I'm more important than you, and I deserve more than you. Then we have lose-win. Lose-win actually sometimes seems attractive to people. Lose-win says we'd rather be a peacemaker or not get into arguments and let others have their way with us. But what lose-win really generally results in is that we set very low expectations for ourselves. We compromise our standards and our goals repeatedly. And it makes us feel that we are not equal to the person that we are in conversation with. Sometimes we even feel taken advantage of. The other thing that it could be if it's not win-win is lose-lose. Lose-lose is like a downward spiral. It says if I'm going down, then you're going down with me because misery loves company. If you think lose-lose, You may take someone down with you, but that's only a temporary win. Eventually, you both feel terrible. So now let's talk about what win-win really is. Sarah, tell us about win-win.
Win-win is a belief that everyone can win, where you are both nice and tough all at once, where you won't step on someone else, but you also won't be a doormat. And there's plenty of success to go around. You become a magnet for friends and relationships.
And here are some examples of what could be a win-win. You're working your job, could be at McDonald's, could be at Target, and you get a raise or you get a promotion. Win-win is thanking the people on your team that helped you to grow and were a part of your success. It could also be that you were struggling in a class and you hired a tutor, and then you end up getting an A in that class. Win-win is thanking your tutor for their part in your success. So you win, and they win because they feel good helping you through the process. One thing we want you to be cautious about, though, is you cannot have a win-win thinking if you do not avoid the toxic twins. And the toxic twins are competition and comparison. Sometimes we think that competing is good, and actually competing can be healthy when it pushes us to be our best. Where it becomes toxic is that if you tie your self-worth to the win, saying, I'm not good enough, and to place yourself above others. Sure, you may have the highest GPA in your high school class, until you go to college and you find somebody else at a higher GPA than you. So remember that there are always people who are more successful than you at something and less successful than you at something. It's not about you versus them. It's about you and your potential, which takes us to comparing. We are all on our own journeys. Every one of us is on their own timetable. The only good comparison is comparing yourself to your own potential. So just a reminder, it is virtually impossible to think win-win if you think about these two a majority of your time. Sarah, what are the fruits of win-win thinking?
The fruits of win-win thinking are you'll be a magnet for friends, you will have better relationships with your parents, and you will be known as a conflict resolver and a problem solver.
Yeah, and you all might be laughing when it says you'll have better relationships with your parents. I promise you, if you think about how you can win in a situation and how they can win with a situation, even when it's about taking out the trash or making your bed, you'll have a better relationship with your parents if you think about how you can both win in the process. But you know what? Life is life, and sometimes you just can't find that win-win. No matter how hard you try, you just can't get to that place. So you want to remember, don't get ugly with yourself. Don't get stepped on. Remember that win-lose, lose-win. You don't want to lose-win. And you just may have to walk away and say, you know what? We have to agree to disagree, and there is just no deal that we can make. Hopefully that doesn't happen often, but it will happen sometimes, and you need to be mindful about it. The thing about win-win thinking is a habit. They're all habits that we're talking about, these 7 habits, which means you have to practice them. You have to practice them and exercise them like a muscle that you're building for a physical muscle. You have to build your mental muscle to exercise these habits. But when you do, you'll experience all those fruits of win-win situations, win-win thinking that Sarah talked about. You'll be a magnet for your friends, you'll have better relationships with your parents, and you will be known by your peers as a conflict resolver and a problem solver.
Thank you so much, Victoria and Sarah, for sharing habit number 4, think win-win. Now, I have 2 questions that I'm going to ask Victoria, but if you have any questions, you can definitely put them in the chat box and we will ask her as well, or ask everyone and everyone can answer. So my first question is this. This is to Victoria. How do you apply habit number 4, think win-win, in your everyday life?
Thanks for asking, Regine. So for me, I always think about abundance thinking. That's that pizza pie of success that I talked about. Always trying to figure out how you can make the pie bigger instead of worrying about grabbing the biggest slice. So when I see that there is work to be done, I see how can we share it so that we can all share in the work and share in the success. That's something I do every single day when I'm at work. I really think about how we can use the power of our team to succeed, and when one of us succeeds, we all succeed. So the other thing is knowing things that you do well, gifts that you have to offer, and places where you need other people to offer up their gifts. That's one way to do it. Use what they have, their gifts and talents, use your gifts and talents to get something that's bigger than what either one of you could have done on your own.
Nice, thank you. And then my last question is, what advice do you have for teens who are struggling with think win-win?
Yeah, so I will tell you, we put the slide in about the toxic twins for a reason. That is your biggest hindrance to thinking win-win. If you try to compare yourself with other people, if you try to put yourself in competition with other people, it's almost impossible, because by nature, those 2 things put you against somebody else. So you're not going to get a win-win. Put yourself in comparison to where you want to be. If you want to compete with yourself. Raise your own game and try to raise somebody else's game right along with you. Those are really the biggest challenges. The other one is, in those situations where you feel that you're on the bad end of a situation, that you're losing, try not to seek revenge. That's that lose-lose. You will pull somebody else down, and you may feel that you've got victory for about a minute and a half. Okay, I went down, but somebody else went down with me, and then you'll both feel bad. And you'll feel worse for pulling them down. So it's trying to really think about how can, in the things I do in my relationships, have us all come out better.
That is excellent. I love what you said, Victoria. You said if you want to compete with somebody, compete with yourself. That is great. That should be on something that I put on my refrigerator, like a refrigerator magnet. Does anyone else want to share anything before we end the night? It looks like we had a little bit of conversation about, I think the toxic twins is something that we all can kind of say that we've experienced at one point or another in our lives. So does anyone who wrote in the comment section want to kind of explain what they were saying?
So Lindsay, I see what you wrote here. My school is super competitive, and I think it's good for me. At the same time, everybody likes to compare their grades a lot. I understand that, because I have 3 young adults, old teens, young adults, 2 who are in college at the moment, and there is that comparison of grades. And fortunately for both of my twins, when they went to high school, they did not have class rankings because they went to smaller high schools, and so they did not do a class ranking. And I was actually pretty glad about that, because everybody, I understand as a parent the stresses that you all face in high school. I thought high school was tough for me, and I got to tell you that I'm not sure how well I do in high school these days. It is very stressful. What I would ask you to think about is to try to get grounded with yourself. If you want to compare yourself to somebody, if you want to be in competition, be in competition with yourself. I got an 86 on the last test. I'm going for an 88 or an 89 or whatever you're going to do. And try really hard not to get caught up in that, where somebody else did better than you, because I will tell you, there's a lot of people who go to college with big heads thinking, oh, I got my whatever GPA in high school, and the first person they meet, that person got a point higher than them, or 2 points higher than them, or a scholarship that they were applying for. So that you're always going to find people on different rungs of the ladder. It's best if you can try to distance yourself from that as much as possible.
Victoria,
There's a couple of really
Aaron,
good comments there in the chat. If you could maybe take a glance at those and respond to them.
yeah, Aaron says, I struggle to think win-win when I fall victim to doubting myself and my talents. Do you have any advice for Aaron?
Yeah, so Aaron, I think you really, really hit the nail on the head. If you start doubting yourself, that's when it's hard to find that win-win, right? So what I would challenge you to do is take a step back, take a deep breath, and think about what you're focusing on. Because we, for some reason, as human beings, I don't think animals fall victim to this, but I think as human beings we do. When things get tough, we start to focus on the things that are not working. And I assure you, Aaron, for everything that you are doubting, there are probably 10 things that you are really good at, and 10 strengths that you're not focusing on. To take a step back from the doubts and ask yourself, you know what, I'm struggling here. Where am I doing well? And even if you have to, write them down. Write them down, and you'll be surprised that your list of things that you're struggling with is probably this big, and the list of things that you're good at, probably that big. So take a deep breath and step back.
That was excellent. We also have Wesley who says, how do you deal with that comparison mindset, especially when it's someone close to you?
You know, so Wesley, I mentioned I have twins. I will tell you, both of my twins are very successful. They're very special people. Of course, I'm their mom, so I'm going to say that, but they are too. They're very special people. And one of them had a significantly easier time in high school academically than the other. Significant, and I wouldn't just say in high school, all the way through school. And they were twins. So there was people who were constantly telling them, hey, we expect you to be just like the other one. They had teachers telling them that. It was really hard for them. So what you need to do, I know it can happen when people are close to you, and I'm sad for you that you are experiencing that. What I can tell you is I look for the people that are around you, that are close to you, who see the value that you bring, who see the special gifts and the special talent that you bring. Listen to them. Put your ear to what they have to say, because those are the important words that will help you to develop the skills that you can maybe model for the people who are not doing it. You can model for those people in your life who are not doing it. You're welcome. How to deal with win-win when the other person just wants their way all the time? So Joey, what I would suggest here is that may be that last slide that I showed that said, how do you what happens if you just can't find win-win? That may be a person that you have to walk away from, maybe for a little while, maybe for a longer while, because they are not thinking win-win. If they just want their way all the time, then they are thinking win-lose. And if you're on that lose end, that's just going to hurt you. So if you can, in some way, put a little distance between yourself and that person or the relationship that is causing somebody else to always want their own way. We actually, if you, in Sean Covey's book, he says that thinking win-win can become problematic in teenage relationships. Girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, that happens. Where you find yourself either in that lose-win where you are compromising all the time because somebody wants their own way, or in a win-lose because somebody's hurt your feelings and you want them to lose. So that's one place to be mindful of that.
Definitely. Aaron says, I've never had someone tell me that they expect me to be just like my twin brother. Good for you.
Yeah,
that means you have good people around.
And that is good. That makes me happy. I can tell you as a mom, I had some very strong words when I heard that once in a parent-teacher conference. So I had very strong words for that teacher. So maybe they've learned. So that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing and being so vulnerable in the chat box. Of course, you can keep going. You can keep asking questions. But until then, I'm just going to ask this. Victoria, if no one else asks any more questions, I want to know, what are some final thoughts that you can give us? You gave us a lot of good nuggets, but what are just your final parting thoughts for us?
Yeah, so I would just tell you that thinking win-win doesn't come naturally. We're not necessarily hardwired for a win-win, or maybe we are and we've forgotten it. So it's just something you have to practice. It's something you have to think about. When you're in a situation and you find yourself getting hot or getting hurt, what can I do to turn this around to make it a win for everybody? And you just got to practice it.
Thank you so much, Victoria. And thank you everyone who has shown up tonight for habit number 4, Think Win-Win. Now, as I reminded you, we will not be having our series tomorrow. Instead, we will be starting again fresh and new on Monday. So you have a 3-day break, a 3-day weekend, if you will, and then meet us right back here on Monday at 7 p.m. to discuss habit number 5, seek first to understand and then to be understood, with Councilman Corey Branch and his wife, Mrs. Shonda Branch. Thank you guys again, and I can't wait to see you all on Monday night. Bye.
Bye-bye.